Alrighty, then we are ready to go, calling the February 28th regular meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission to order. Tomorrow's leap day. Yeah, it's kind of fun. Before we go to the minutes, I just wanted to, mention some changes to the commission. I believe you are all aware that Susan Daly has resigned. Her initially had indicated it was going to be fairly immediate, but after some discussions with her and some of us, she's agreed to stay on for a few more months to help wrap up some key projects. And we'll talk about some of that, as we get into our reports later. So I'm thankful that she was willing to give us a few more months to get through this period. Is challenging, with Jim acting as interim to, drop more things on his plate, et cetera, would have been a lot. So she will do that. That being said, she's not here this evening. I'm not sure she'll be able to make the March meeting. So really staying on to help us wrap up projects. And also, Kara's term is up next month, and she did notify John Zagrodsky and myself that she is not, re-upping and resigned effective tomorrow, basically. So she sends her best regards and says, keep up the great work, and she's enjoyed serving with us, but just felt that given other commitments, she couldn't, attend enough of the meetings to warrant staying involved. So we want to thank her very much for her service. I hope she'd be here in person so we could do so, but a conflict came up tonight. And Janet woke up with a sore throat and fever, so I happily told her to stay away and said if she felt up to it, she could zoom in, but told her I fully understood if she couldn't, because I know a lot of what's been going around has been pretty nasty. I can speak from personal experience. So that is that. So that brings us, and everybody else is here. So thank you and welcome.
I just wanted to say to Susan and Carl, thank you very much for all of their hard work. They were great, dedicated commissioners.
Absolutely.
And I think we all would agree. I just wanted to pause for a second and thank them for their service.
Absolutely.
A lot of volunteer hours, and a lot of work.
Both Karen, I agree, both Karen and Susan have given so much time, and Susan in particular, 10 years of time.
Oh, I think it's like 17.
17?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a long, it's an incredible amount of her personal time that she gave to the commission.
Dedication. And,
Yeah.
They'll be missed.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. And after 17 years, like, what's a few more months?
Yeah.
Please.
Also her knowledge base.
Her knowledge base. I want to know who's going to get the binder. Who's getting the
the
binders?
Yeah,
I thought you were getting the.
I probably should get the binders. She may want to keep them.
You're gonna have to put on an addition though.
Binders.
So Susan will be staying on through the playground project as well. That's the minute?
Ish. I don't know if it'll be all the way through the playground project or not.
Okay.
But at least for, I think she's targeting April, but I think we'll see how it goes
Oh, okay.
and how things proceed. So it's a little bit up in the air, but I'm fine with that. John Zagrodsky's fine with that. And it's just-
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, we gotta pick up the things with the bricks and all the other
I
things that she
know,
was working on.
yeah, and we'll talk about the bricks, because that was one of my biggest concerns was the bricks, so I think I put that on the agenda. Yes, so we did. Okay, but let's knock through the minutes. Adele, you sent additions for the attendance that in the audience where Bill Van Loan was here
Yes,
and Diane Conalog was on the Zoom.
yes.
If we make the distinction. Other than that, both Kathy and I went through them. You can see some marked up changes that one or the other of us made. So does anybody else have any other additions or clarifications to the minutes that they would like to have made? Nope, seeing none, I'll take a motion to approve. Kathy? Second, Mary Louise, all in favor? Good. Okay. Do we have any public comment?
I think we have several people on the Zoom, so I don't know if they have any, I doubt they have any public comment. I just want to acknowledge that they're there. Okay, for the minutes.
Okay, so I see Diane Conalog, this will help Tamara as, Tamara asked that we do a roll call because she can't always see well.
Exactly, that's what I.
So
figured.
Adele is in the audience from the RTM Parks and Rec Chair. Her members Diane Conalog is on the video. Kim, I'm assuming is Kim Kiner. Is that a safe guess?
Okay.
That's all right.
Yes.
Yep, there she is.
Yeah.
I see you on the exercise video too. She takes her class virtually. And then Penelope Wilson is a
Yes.
member of your group as well.
Yes, she is,
Okay.
and I think Susan
Well,
Marks,
Okay,
Susan Marks should be on there too, at least she was emailing. me.
don't see
jump
her.
There you go.
Oh, and Susan Marks.
there she is.
Okay, great, okay. So that should help Tamara because with the
I
video,
think
she
so. I know
she
it's
couldn't
difficult.
easily tell.
It's even difficult, even when we're in the audience for her, I think. I did want to echo your sentiments about the folks that were coming off of the commission. And we appreciate all the work they've done, and I want to know who's doing the Survey Monkey for,
I know. Who's doing the Survey Monkey?
but to be serious, thank you
Yes,
to them.
very much so.
Also, Monica is on. I don't know Monica.
Oh. I
Monica's
don't know.
iPad.
I don't know if it's
Yeah.
Monica.
Oh, Monica.
Is that-
Hi, Monica.
Hello.
Oh, it's Monica. Oh my goodness, it's the Monica.
It's the Monica.
Welcome, Monica McNally.
All right, I'm going private.
All righty. Okay, next, we have on the agenda a request to sell merchandise. We have, the Parks and Rec Department has an approved permit from the organization Blue and Yellow Ukraine that will be hosting a 5K run starting from and returning to Pear Tree Point Beach early on the morning of Mother's Day. This is a repeat event, we've had them for the past few years. And as you can see by their letter, they came in and asked for permission also to sell some merchandise. And Jim correctly picked up that in the Parks and Rec rules, we do have a paragraph about selling. I'll just read it to you. It says, "No person shall sell or offer for sale any merchandise, article, or articles in a park without written consent of the Parks and Rec Commission, or practice, carry on, or conduct or solicit any trade, occupation, business, or profession, period. A permit must be obtained from the department and displayed while selling." So they have correctly asked for, permission to sell the merchandise while they're hosting their event. So that's why we,
Yeah, and all profits go to help the people in Ukraine during this time of war.
yes. So, and Jim, this says a permit, but you checked, and they also need to get a selling or vendor's permit from planning and zoning?
We checked and they do not have to get.
They don't,
They do
okay.
not, no. So it's, they need your blessing and we'll make an amendment to the permit that we've issued to them for the race so that they'll be able to sell articles of clothing for the benefit of the folks in Ukraine.
And do we have a copy of their 501c3?
I believe we do. I believe Tamara has that in the office, and if we don't, I'll double check. I believe the first year we got it from them. I don't know if we've followed up the last two, but I'll make sure that we do.
Okay.
Yep.
Any questions from commission members on that?
No, is this the first time we've ever had somebody come to us asking to sell merchandise, or have we had this before
First.
from other groups like Darien Road Race, or?
It's the first I recall. Now, I suppose we can't be certain that groups weren't selling merchandise and didn't scour our rules and realize they needed to check for permission. So I can't be sure, but in my memory, I don't ever remember us having a request. Do you, Amy?
No.
No.
Okay.
So it's fine. I mean, when rereading this paragraph, my thinking was the spirit was, we don't want people just like showing up at a beach or park on a Saturday and, they make their own jewelry at home or whatever and setting up tables. Probably was more that, the spirit or going around saying, oh, can I give you a back massage for $10, whatever. But, I really like the fact that although this is associated, with their event, that they, went to the effort of double checking with us and making sure that they get permission, so. You know, if we were to get oodles of these requests in association with events, I suppose we could look at the wording, you know,
We can look at it as we revise the rules.
or revise the rules, but so far as, I just don't recall that we've ever had a request.
Can I just put in a request that we get to see some of the merchandise before it's sold?
I think that's a good idea, Chris.
Yeah, there's a lot of, levels of what's going on in Ukraine and things like that. I just want to make sure it's all tasteful. and-
Innocuous.
Yes, blue and yellow, yeah.
No, I think that's a fair request.
Yeah.
It is a fair request. A good one.
Okay, so can I have a motion subject to a member of the Parks and Recreation Department asking for, you know, a list and sampling of the merchandise and make sure that, you know, we're limiting it to what they show us. Okay, Chris. Second? Jim? All in favor?
Everybody,
Everybody?
that's what
Okay,
we're.
cool. Moving right along here. Okay, the commission committees document now, we did email out about midday. I apologize, it was later than we had hoped, but Kathy and I have spent a fair amount of time on this, and also gotten input from Kate Bush, our town administrator, who also in turn got some input from Wayne Fox. So it took a little more doing. And the first thing is I just misspoke because based on everyone's guidance, it was determined that the best way to identify these groups would be to be advisory groups. You know, and in conversations, you know, with Kate, you know, she certainly talked about the fact that all of us who sit in on the commission are effectively empowered with, you know, authorities to vote on things that affect the parks because we've been vetted and appointed by the selectmen who in turn have the legal authority to do that. So effectively individuals, especially who are not commission members that are providing us with support, haven't really been vested with those sort of powers and protections and everything. So, but we're really using them in an advisory capacity. So, you know, after some back and forth, we settled on calling them advisory groups. Okay, so that was the first change. The charges are basically the same as, you know, those that we put forward last month. We did add some language which we had talked about, you know, that the groups will be notified by the group chair when its final non-binding recommendation is presented to the Parks and Rec Commission, and that, you know, group members may attend the meetings and comment during the public comment period. But really clarifying that, you know, decisions do rest with the commission. And that's, you know, that's, as I said, that's our role. That's what we've been charged with, for better or worse. Mary Louise, let's see, you said I gotta pull Susan off of invasives. Hopefully, Jim and Mary Louise, I got all your committees
It's correct.
membership correct. Otherwise, Janet, you know, I was hoping to be here this evening, but she's under the weather. And she did give me, she has assembled a committee of individuals to work with her on Baker. I'm really pleased that T.R. Hessert, that some of you may recall, was a wonderful, wonderful commission member. With, I think she has 5 children now, so just, you know. 5.
Yeah.
So just perfect, you know, person. She's, you know, been on the commission, was a very strong contributing member, and, you know, she has, you know, children, you know, right in all the sweet spots of what we're looking for when we do playgrounds, so, and I think she'll be a wonderful contributing member, so. I can't speak to the other individuals, I hope Janet would be able to do that, but I know she's worked hard on assembling a group. And then we decided to add a section on meeting protocols. I think that's to help all of you as chairs. I really urge you, and I'll make sure I connect with Janet, you know, to go over the requirements. Again, we did check with town and council, you know, that they said yes, all, you know, we need to follow all of the protocols, or holding meetings, noticing meetings, posting minutes, holding them in a public place, etc. So we thought it would be a good idea just to detail all of these out for your use. And I would ask that, you know, Jim and Mary Louise, you share these, share all of this with your committee members, so that you just really understand, what's what. I think, we got, all of us, I think, believe in, self-assessment and looking when things could be done better, or should have been clearer, or whatever, and I think this was an opportunity to better document what we were doing and what people's expectations were.
It also better documents what goes on. So I think it's also helpful to everyone on the committee that they're all gonna be recorded, whether on Zoom or in person. So it documents the proceedings as well, and there has to be minutes, sorry.
Right.
And the other piece is that you don't have to have public comment. So that's the one thing we didn't want necessarily, the advisory groups to become a mini commission. So you don't necessarily have to have public comment at them. It's just the group of people that are there.
And I think for the working groups, it should make it more manageable, and it's probably best that any public comment related to the work you're doing really be presented at our regular commission meeting, so the commission is hearing it. And, Kathy, people have to be aware that, what they write, what they say, whatever, can, Jim Cameron's goal is to have as much on TV 79 as possible. It's not a legal requirement, but their goal is absolutely to provide as much coverage to the community as possible, so people need to expect that and have to get comfortable with knowing that they're being recorded and their words are there for posterity. And it does take some, we all know it takes some getting used to. I came to town hall a few weeks ago and there I was up on the screen, and it's just kind of weird, But we want to make sure that people really know and understand that. I think that's a fair expectation.
Yeah. And we put in some language too, so people wouldn't put conversations off the record. So they shouldn't be putting them on their phones, so suddenly if the town gets one of those crazy FOIA requests that they sometimes do, that suddenly your texts are suddenly requested or emails. And so we're trying to just encourage that everything is happening in the group itself. We're not trying to stop people from discussing things. We're just trying to actually protect some of the members as well who haven't gone through the vetting process.
And we also all, and this applies to the commission of course too, have to be careful about not holding conversations over email. And Monica, if she's still in there, is always very careful, with the Great Island Committee to remind us of that, because if somebody says, well, we should add this to this document, and somebody comes and says, so what about that? All of a sudden, you're having an electronic meeting. So the email really just has to be used for, here's the meeting materials, remember everybody, we're meeting, for the tour or whatever, but folks do need to understand that, because then you're not having effectively a public meeting. So.
Yeah, Connecticut's open meeting laws are very strict, so that's some of this. And FOIA's interpreted in the state in a very strict way, so that's why some of the concerns were raised as well.
Okay. And then just protocols, things should go through the chair. And that, really goes, for this commission, as well, generally. Need to be careful about bombarding staff and whoever. So, any questions or comments, thoughts, improvements?
I just had a typo, it's not a big deal.
I hate typos, so please.
On the last bullet, it says meeting minutes will be taken of each meeting.
There it is, meeting will be taken at which meeting? At which meeting? Great, thank you. And then at the bottom, and this was their math, was also, we vote to accept this. These are the groups that we feel, their work is done, basically. And then they would be proceeding. Okay.
Just wanted to.
You may want to
ask
identify
if
the
you would-
playground group as the Cherry Lawn Playground Group, because we have another playground group going at the bigger park.
Okay,
Oh,
got
that's a
it.
great idea.
Got it. Thank you.
Just wanted to ask if you would never allow public comment or questions in a meeting. Now, obviously, it would be at the chair's discretion,
Well,
but
The idea was that if there was public comment, we'd want all of the commission to hear. So that's why, and we're putting so much burden on these groups as it is, and the people running them.
Actually, not really so much public comment, but maybe a question, but, you know.
Yeah, it was just, public comment is a formal process as part of it. So if people have questions, maybe they get funneled through the chair, as we indicated. It's not to stop dialogue, it really was just to try and focus it so we, as the commission, hear everything, because we're the ones making the decisions finally. So if people want to have public comment, we want them to come here and talk here, because sometimes it gets lost in telephone translation, like one person to the next to the next.
I understand it, but I see the value in the pickleball meetings of the folks in the audience. You know, if they have a question or they might have, you know, a short comment, I see the value of that. So, and then I also know that the chairman will share that with you. So it's nice to have a little flexibility. I get what you do, where your thoughts are, but just making an observation.
No, I totally understand your point of view.
I mean, generally, public comment is not discussion. We make some allowances for our key partners, but mostly when people just want to attend the meeting, it's some agendas from other departments will literally say there should be no expectation of dialogue. So I think we just hear people come to say they get against, but they really can't. So
I mean, since your advisory group was mentioned,
Mhm.
what are your thoughts?
I welcome public comment. I view it as participation, food for thought for the committee, as well as something we may not have thought of. So I'm in favor of it. In fact, I even moved all public comment to the front of our meetings, so that in case something is mentioned, it can be brought up later on by the other committee members, something we may not have thought of, you know, so. But I'm not sure if our committee is a little unique. I don't know. I mean, because people actually play in a sport and they can relate to it and their own situation, and you know, it might be a little different than some of the other committees. But again, I view it as a big part of our meetings. So.
Mary Louise.
Mary Louise, what do you think?
I miss that.
On the public comment, if for the invasives committee, right, or the gardening committee, would you want public comment at those advisory group meetings?
I think that could be somewhat difficult. I'm not against it, but they would have to log in. We have our meetings via Zoom. The garden committee doesn't meet that often.
What if we just say there is no requirement for a public comment?
Or it's at the discretion of the chair?
All right, that's
Yeah,
what.
especially
Yeah, I think
chair.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because I can see Jim's point. It's, you know, it's an additive situation.
Okay, so we will have it say, meetings are open to the public, semicolon, the public comment period will be at the discretion of the group chair.
No, I think it works.
Okay.
Nice addition.
With those changes, everybody good or any more discussion?
Nope.
Nope, okay, I'll take a motion. As amended, Jim? Amy, in favor? Okay, cool. Okay, next we need to talk about the Weed Beach plantings. This is the Eagle Scout project to remove the invasives, aka lots of mugwort, from the dunes, the existing dunes. You know, we've talked about the fact that they kind of got mowed down and the mugwort took over, and that the grasses need to be replaced. The dunes are really important for the coastal resiliency to keep sand from washing into the parking lot. I mean, they're a really important feature, aside from aesthetics, which some people like and some people don't. they really do a lot in terms of keeping the beach on the beach. So, as you'll recall, we have an Eagle Scout who has, for his project, stepped up to assemble a work group, probably kind of going into April, to weed and plant. And his advisor will be Joanne Gabriel, who's a master gardener. Some of you may know Joanne, she works at the public library. I think she's the director of programming, and she's been serving on the invasives committee as well. But she agreed to help mentor this individual, as Susan will be, of course. Normally, when we get the Eagle Scout projects, they need to self-fund them. There was some feeling that this was a bit different, and then often the Eagle Scouts come to us, and it's not necessarily something we were planning to take care of anyway. They kind of come up with something and like, gee, I'd like to do this for you, and we're like, okay, that's great, like, you know, the Book Aid or Kateri Dailies, you know, pickup station, well, they're nice ads, it wasn't necessarily something where like, you know, we had allocated budget dollars for. But there was some feeling because the dunes need to be taken care of, and this would be something that we would be spending money on anyway, that we would utilize some of our, we call beautification dollars, but I guess they're technically classified as groundskeeping money from our budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th to pay for the American seagrass plugs. And per Jim, we have $6,800 left in the budget, which again takes us to June 30th. Susan's been working with Victoria Hine, who works at the Nature Center, is also a member of the Invasives Committee, is very knowledgeable, and she's got contacts all over the place and can source them, I think, at almost wholesale prices, very cheaply. She can get us 4,400 plugs for $6,000. Susan almost thinks that's way more than we're gonna need. That's a lot of plugs to plant. So she's like, we may even do half of that. But at any rate, you know, wanted to get everybody's feeling about, you know, using our beautification loan for that project. I'm not aware really of anything else we have for this calendar year. You know, we might have to replace a few plants over at Pear Tree. I noticed, you know, a couple, but they were really small things that looked like maybe they didn't survive the first round.
Yeah, I would leave some money there because, you know, we have some of those plantings around the shower, the bathroom, you know, that I don't think they're gonna survive the winter, you know, so we probably need to do something.
They're supposed to, but we have to say,
Yeah,
right.
Doesn't look that great
Right.
right now, that's
Yeah.
why, see what comes up.
Yeah.
When you say plugs, I know we talked about specific plantings that they were gonna do at.
It's
Beach.
American seagrass, it's what,
Oh,
really
okay.
what was there. They're
Okay.
just these little plugs. It's just like a
Stick
little
up in the ground.
mini plant with a little roots
Yeah.
and you just dig a hole.
And I know you and I both felt like, what had been taken away was the high grass.
That's
You know,
what we're
feeling-
replacing.
That's what it will be?
Yes.
Okay, cool, that's good.
Yes.
Okay.
From what I understand, it may have been somewhat of a maintenance issue that they were mowed down too low.
Mhm.
And I think the crew now knows that they really need to just be left alone. I think that
And
was,
once we plant them, is there a maintenance cost, or do they kind of take care of themselves?
they should just take care of themselves.
Typically seagrass
Well,
does.
Just you
They
have
do
to
need
keep
to
the
be
mugwort.
trimmed, I
You just have to
Control.
keep the mugwort.
Don't they have to be trimmed in the fall?
You can trim, I talked to Susan about this, you can trim them in the fall, but she said you also can just kind of let them
Go.
go. But if you trim them, they have to be
Okay.
trimmed the right way.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it all over in Cape and Martha's Vineyard and
Right,
everywhere, and it's not like anybody's going out there and trimming it every year.
So
Yeah.
to Jim's point on how many we purchased,
Mm-hmm.
I was down at Pear Tree today. So what we put in there on the beautification dollars were more mature rather than plugs.
Mhm.
If we had extra plugs, we could.
We didn't do seagrass there.
What did we put in there?
That's all flowers and,
There's definitely a grass in the center,
you talking over by the
on
road?
the roadside, yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's a different type of grasses.
it's not
I
a
think.
seagrass, it's lower.
Is it?
Yeah.
Could we mix the two? Because I think,
Well,
I
if we
thought
have
the
extra, it would
goal
be
was
nice.
to,
that's what I'm saying, we have extra, like,
You two
we could
know.
always use it at Pear Tree or no?
It's a nice look.
I would
Seagrass
have
is
to
cool.
ask someone like Karen Hewen that.
I agree, yeah, but
Yeah,
I mean,
I know I know what I don't know.
yeah, agreed. So,
Um,
whatever we can find.
The
Yeah.
seagrass, I think, was originally there, and Amy and Mary Louise, correct me if I'm wrong, was because that was the original sort of
Yeah.
grass that was
Mhm.
there, so we want to replace it. And the other thing about seagrass is I think it holds down the sand
It
better.
does, it does.
Yeah,
and anchors the dunes.
yeah, and anchors the dunes.
So right now we've got mugwort anchoring the dunes. Which was one reason, the original plan was that the Boy Scout was talking about starting the weeding in the fall. And then as he got into it with Susan and Joanne or whatever, they said, no, you don't want to do that because although it's an invasive, it is actually anchoring the dunes. So if you pull it out, we would have been risking the dunes over the winter.
Mhm.
So,
I think it's a good spend.
Was there, we weren't planning to use the money for anything else?
we don't really have anything on the radar. We're talking about the project over at Cherry, but that's, I don't see that happening before June 30th.
No,
No.
exactly.
Right, so that would get us into, you know, our next year's beautification budget. So other than, you know, leaving so many, said Susan thought probably, that's a lot of plugs to plant. That we probably wouldn't need that money, but we definitely have the budget dollars, but we didn't wanna just, you know, spend everything down and then, it's like, ooh.
Yeah, well, good to know we have it.
Okay, so, if
In
people are
favor?
comfortable, Kathy, make a
Second.
motion, Chris?
All in
Everybody?
favor?
Great. Update on the Cherry Lawn walking path. We got a little bit stalled for a while, just in terms of working out the mechanics. But early, was it this week, Jim, or last week? It's all a blur now. I guess it was this week. What was this week?
What was this week?
Our meeting with John and Kate.
Yeah, Monday.
That was Monday.
Monday.
So John, Kate, Susan, Jim and I met to discuss how to do this. You know, in terms of the real protocol, you know, you gotta sell the bricks or whatever, and would the town collect the money or would the vendor collect the money? Administration needed to understand, they wanted to make sure that we weren't going over the requirements for paying a vendor where you had to go out to bid, so we walked them through that. Walk them through, you know, the need to document that these were going to be all individual gifts, and so that when we got this big lump of money, that it wouldn't look like a big gift that had to go through acceptance protocols. So we went through all of those details with Town Hall, got everybody comfortable about the plan that had been laid out to do this. It was agreed that we would go ahead and have the vendor collect the money. So when we get this thing launched, residents go in, they don't want to buy a brick, whatever, put in what they want on the brick, and then they'll just pay there, you know, right there, rather than link it back into a town site. So the vendor will collect the money, take what they need to pay for the actual production of the bricks, and then we'll ultimately make a remittance, you know, for the balance back to the town. So everybody's comfortable with that, that's the cleanest. Susan has somebody who's volunteered before the bricks get produced to read all of the entries of what people want their brick to say, getting back to your point, to make sure we're comfortable with everything the bricks say. There's nothing on there that we feel might not be appropriate for a playground. And then they would go to production and then deliver the bricks to the site. So that's how we're going ahead. It was just a little back and forth for a while, and then we were getting very nervous about timing and whether we could accomplish this in time to get the bricks for the production schedule. But Jim was in contact with the playground vendor, the equipment, I think he had, by now he has it.
He's received it. It's, I think some of the weather issues we've had in the last couple of weeks have slowed him down a little bit, so I think it's just gonna push his completion date back into June.
Right, which gives us now a little bit more time because we lost some time. We just got tangled up with staff, and it was the middle of budget season and vacations and just being able to assemble everybody to work out how, you know, how to work out the, you know, devil's always in the details, and really work out, you know, the mechanics, and again, make sure we weren't kind of tripping up on anything and not getting approvals we needed or something. It just took so longer than we'd hoped, so. we were getting a little bit nervous about whether we could accomplish, and then we thought Susan was leaving, and I don't know how to do this, but anyway, I think we are in good shape. And we did get commitment from Town Hall to help with, publicity in terms of using the town newsletter and the different social media venues that Marley Hayes, our town communications director, uses. So help us get this thing launched quickly, and hopefully we'll have, good success getting some bricks sold.
So we had talked about having a couple set aside for people who could not pay. That's kind of something we would, could be a lottery or something. Is that something we can still do? Am I adding more complications to an already
That
complicated project?
didn't come up, and I don't know how we would accomplish that, given that we're paying the vendor directly.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Okay.
We could put an option when you're buying, would you like to buy for another family?
That would be good. Oh, I love that. I like that idea. I love
Right?
that.
I mean, you could anonymously,
Or
would
would you like to donate one for another?
you like to
family?
donate one to another family?
And then we could have a couple that were
Mhm.
donated, and we could do some type of lottery or something for that. I like that.
Right, there's, I mean,
That's a
I'll
nice
work around,
idea.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we would have to check with the vendor and see if their
They
system
can do
can
that.
can
But
accommodate it.
usually they can, to your point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should also have a brick commemorating the year that it went in and, acknowledgement of the Parks and Rec when they built it, right? Or the town or something.
Good. Send some ideas, or
Sure.
come back with some ideas.
Mhm.
So that's where we are. So we'll pick up with that with Susan in due course. And that was one thing she agreed she would help shepherd through, thankfully.
What's the timing on this again?
The fundraiser?
The fundraiser, yes.
Soon, like really soon. We really have to get up and running, so.
And when are you hopeful that it'll be installed?
I think the walkway would be last.
One of the last things.
One of the
that we
last
know.
things, so.
Middle to the end of May, beginning of June, something.
No, at this point. There is some brick walkway there now, as you all know. Then the bricks that were donated last time will stay. It's really just, it just stops. It just sort of stops.
How many bricks in total do we have?
I think she was talking about 400 off the top of my head.
They'll go quick.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
And how much are they, please?
We were talking about 250 or 500,
I think 400 or 250. I think
400,
those were the
yeah.
options.
Am I missing that 400 up with the 400 bricks? I don't have my notes with me. I should have brought them. I don't have my notes with me. But not an extraordinary amount by all. There's only so much room, and you can have some of the walkways just going to be concrete, so it's not going to be all
Right.
just brick. It'll be, like it is now. There's bricks around the edges, and there's kind of concrete in the middle. But this will connect. There won't be a path to nowhere. It'll connect the playgrounds. It'll mean you have a walking path from the parking lot right in, and when you're looking at ADA compliance or whatever, the term that Dan Biggs uses, that you need surfaces that are like firm and stable. Is to be compliant and really provide accessibility at all levels, whether it's people with truly in a wheelchair, moms with strollers, grandparents who may not be as sure-footed, whatever. The idea is to have complete connectivity. And that's been a goal of this commission. It's a stated goal in our standards of care is to do that whenever we possibly can.
I guess the other side to Kathy's question would be, would there be limitations on how many a family or a person can purchase?
What, even by 10?
I'm just saying, if we're dealing with 400, right? And, for folks who may not be able to afford one, and other families that can afford 20, is there some
You
level
could
of...
limit two to a family or.
I think there was a talk at that meeting briefly that it was a limit of one per family.
Oh, one per family.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and it was, Lori's right on, it's gonna be between 450 bricks.
Okay.
At $250 or $400, depending on the size of the brick.
150 to 250.
400 or 250, sorry.
It was 8 by 8 and 4 by 8 or something?
Yep.
Like that,
Yeah.
yeah.
I may have missed this, but how are we building awareness of this project? to the community?
We're going to leverage our town communications director, Marley
Oh,
Hayes,
Marley,
you know, the
okay.
newsletter, it's, you know, et cetera. You know, we've got our, our Parks and Rec email blast list that we can send it out to, you know, that's, I mean, we've got thousands of names on that list, right, Jim?
That's enough, yeah.
Right there, so, John offered possibly to cover it in one of the videos he's doing. He loves the project, so, you know, a lot of different avenues. All right, so nothing to vote on there, just wanted to update everybody on that. And, okay, next. Oh, were you done on that? Were you done? It's a little weird sitting this way, 'cause, well, there I kind of see everybody. I just wanted to open up the discussion of selection of a new commission vice chair, you know, with Susan stepping down in a few months. It's something we need to think about whether we want to continue to have one. As you all know, it's not a requirement that we have one, but it's fine that we have one. And/or then an individual to chair meetings in my absence. Now, as it turns out, I do have a conflict next month for the March 20th meeting. Susan cannot commit to be there. So we need to vote on what, you know, I learned in the summers. Kate's always a wealth of information that the whole group really has to appoint a chair for the meeting. Kathy has graciously agreed, she's our secretary.
For March.
For March, for the March meeting, unless somebody else is dying to do it, she is willing to do the March, and we just need to, you know, vote for her to do that for next month's meeting.
For March.
For March. For March, okay, so, I have a motion for Kathy to chair next month's meeting. Mary Louise, Jim, all in favor? Okay. Ted, you're it. We'll go over everything in advance, etc. So then, you know, we can have a discussion, or we don't, you know, in terms of having a vice chair. You know, Susan and I have worked very, very closely together. She was always kind of serving in that capacity anyway. So when I think about it, that really puts it all back on all of you to think about whether it's something you would want to do. Susan, as you know, committed a lot of time. We were on the phone hours a week, probably. Hours a week. You know, so it's, you know, and then, you know, whoever it is then committing to, you know, if I wake up with a fever and I'm not coming, to be able to step in. So, you know, you need to be sure that, you know, your attendance can be pretty regular, that you can be here timely, you know, just sort of all the stuff that, you know, goes with stepping into that role. So I would just kind of put it out for you guys to think about. You can reach out to me individually, we can talk about it while I'm gone next month, or,
No, well, I think we should open up to discussion.
yeah, or open up discussion.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see, you know,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to have a vice chair, and definitely good for someone if you're not there. Good for somebody if you actually run committee meetings or understand. I mean, we don't get very difficult into Robert's rules or things like that. I think we're pretty casual with our meetings. I would put myself in, but my new work obligations have me traveling back and forth, so it's not something I can necessarily do. We don't have the full room, and we know that we're about to get new members, and we should have Susan for 60 days or something like that, and we also understand that it does take Board of Select some time to appoint new members.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's something we need to rush into tonight. I think it's something that we should take the time and discuss and find, you know, if anyone here is familiar and comfortable and would like to do it, I think it's then the place that we can discuss, and I think it should just be on the March and the April agenda, and we just keep looking through and talking about it.
Yeah, I think that's the key word, what you just said, like, you know, who would want to step up?
Yeah.
You know, Susan was willing to step up, and she had been here for so long, and kind of had taken on that role. Without Susan, I don't know who else, if someone else in the committee wants to just step up and say, sure, I'll do it, then that's great, but like you said, you know, commitments that everybody has may not allow them to do that, and so it's something for us, food for thought, for us all to take in, you know.
I agree, it's a lot of time, which, like Chris, I can't commit to right now, because I'm gonna start traveling more. But I understand your need to have someone help you the way Susan did. And understand that there's a lot that you do as well, a lot of time that you commit. So I would be in favor of having someone, it just can't be me.
What was that? Oh, I second Kathy.
So it can be me?
Yeah.
But it's just, you know, Susan has committed an enormous amount of time and has kind of helped you steer through so many projects. So,
So I just think about it.
Okay, and we can take our time because there is no technical requirement, so it gives us a little work and settle on, you know, the right individual. But I just wanted to mention, but we also needed to get buttoned up, so that means, right now, like for next month, I have, you know, luxury of knowing I won't be here. I try as much as I can to arrange my personal schedule around it, but, you know, sometimes stuff comes up, or, as I said, you wake up sick. And I'm really big about not coming to meetings. I think we all learned that.
Yeah.
So I really don't want people to feel they have to drag themselves here, you know, they're coughing and sneezing and whatever, because survey them as well. But then, so, you know, I would want to know that, you know, I think technically the meeting could go on and Jill would vote at the beginning of the meeting who was going to chair it. But I think that kind of makes it difficult for whoever is picked that night if you're coming, you're totally not prepared and ready, so that's not an ideal situation to be placed into. You know. So, anyway, you know, the vice chair said Susan and I, you know, had already done it informally, but then, you know, we're going over the agenda together, kind of talking through, you know, everything we needed to cover and whatever, so, you know, if I woken up with a fever, she would have been, you know, fully ready to, you know, ready to go. Okay, well Kathy, you're on deck for next month, I'll make sure that you're ready, and we'll go from there. Okay, so
you will
now.
be missed, Lori.
Hmm?
You will be missed.
That's okay. That's okay. You guys will be just fine for a night. All right, we're kind of busy with a lot of stuff the last few months, so we really hadn't had any committee updates, so felt like it was probably time to do that. So we thought we'd start with Jim can update us. Really, this is the first time we're getting a report on the doings of the pickleball, and I see when we did the agenda, it was before we redid that, so it should have said pickleball advisory group, so going forward,
All right.
we will change that.
Okay, cool. Well, since we last met, John had his video on pickleball sent out to the whole community, and I've heard a lot of great response from it. I thought it was very well done. Touched on everything.
It was very
and,
balanced.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. So that was nice. That was nice to have to, you know, have the top
It's
dog.
fun that he got out of
town.
the office too. It was-
Yeah,
Stood there in the rain.
Yeah.
right,
good.
right. Went up to the courts and all that,
Well
so
done.
it was great. Also, I was hoping to have a couple of the committee members here tonight, but they're all playing pickleball. So, they had commitments playing pickleball. So 2 over in Stamford at Pickleball America, and the other 2 are down at the Ice House or whatever it's called in Norwalk playing tonight. So unfortunately they couldn't be here. But anyway, so let me give you the update here. The committee's spoken with town residents, associations that are affiliated with pickleball to gather thoughts and potential locations that would address the surging interest and increase of volume for pickleball courts in Darien. Our meetings and numerous conversations have included organizations in towns, surrounding towns like Stamford, Norwalk, New Canaan, and Greenwich. There was one common theme, that the interest in pickleball is extremely strong and everyone needs more courts. So everyone is rushing to put courts in. Every town has said that the interest in tennis and paddle was still strong, but tennis and paddle had kind of leveled off, whereas pickleball is still on fire. The most recent SFIA, which is the Sports Federation something, and the U.S. Tennis Association show that nationwide the interest in tennis has grown by 9%, whereas pickleball has grown by 112% in the last 2 years alone, okay? In 2023, our 4 courts at Darien had almost 2,000 reservations. We've had people waiting to get on the court. Whenever you go up there, it's highly likely that you're gonna see people waiting on the sideline for somebody to come off so that they can get back on. I've heard from several Darien residents that they're playing on cul-de-sacs. They're creating pickleball courts in their driveways, in their neighborhoods, just to play the game. There's a love for the game. And what's nice about this game, it's a real community game, where people jump in, it's really social, and I think that's what you're seeing, that's why you see these things happening in neighborhoods, on cul-de-sacs, et cetera. Bless you. I'll share one thing, when Gorham Pond froze over in January, I think it was the only time that it froze over enough that the kids could get out there and skate, play hockey. There were actually guys playing pickleball on skates. Pickleball on skates, they had a net up, the area was cleared, and they were playing. That's how crazy pickleball is now. So anyway, Darien's, also I should mention that Darien's country clubs, the 3 country clubs, are all either in the process of building or planning to put pickleball courts in at each of the clubs. So again, speaks to the volumes of interest that there is in this town. So I read a couple of numbers of what the surrounding towns have. New Canaan has 11 courts at this point, Greenwich has 18, Norwalk has 14, and they're converting 3 tennis courts in Rowayton in time for this summer to have another 12 courts by this summer. Darien has 4 outdoor courts at Cherry Lawn, 2 indoor courts at Town Hall, and the ones at Town Hall are primarily used for lessons or drop-in play for the senior center. Primarily, that's what we use. So we are obviously way behind the rest of Fairfield County. So the committee has come up with short-term as well as long-term solutions, all right? So for short-term solutions, the committee has reached out to neighborhood associations and private clubs with tennis courts that are considering pickleball. But due to the membership demand that they have and parking situations, for instance, one group that we talked to is in a neighborhood where people just can't throw their cars on the block. They would have to walk a good probably half mile from the closest parking lot to get there. That's not gonna work out. But due to the demand that they have themselves with their own members as well as the parking, that wasn't gonna be an option. We did reach out to a company called Next Court, and Susan Daly had recommended Next Court. She used them to build a court up in, I think, Vermont, where she has her house in the barn, and she was very happy with them. So what they do is they tile paddle courts. We were hoping that that could be a solution, maybe down at Reed Beach. 1 or 2 courts could be tiled. It comes with a cost of roughly $10,000 a court, but it's very easy to put down and pick up. I've also spoken with other folks who have been with clubs that have experienced this with other vendors that were not happy with it. This tile is completely different than what these other clubs have
And
experienced.
to be specific, this goes over the paddle tennis court.
Right.
Permanently?
No.
Seasonally.
Seasonally, just for the paddle season. And it
For the
also
non-paddle.
addresses,
Non-paddle season.
it also addresses the heat situation in summer with the aluminum flooring, that the people will not be sweating like crazy when they're playing. So it addresses all of that. Jim had the opportunity to speak
The
with,
tiles also at the, because Tokenique was using those at, I think, Alex Ridge, and those were secondhand tiles also,
oh, they were?
by the way.
Oh, okay. Okay, this gentleman was very familiar with what Tokenique had done,
Okay.
and Tokenique was not happy with what
Yeah,
they had done. They took them up, and today they're playing paddle on paddle courts. So,
Pickle.
I'm sorry, pickle
Wait,
no, it's
on,
on paddle.
on the paddle surface.
right.
But the ones Tokenique had are different than the vendor.
Totally different vendor,
Yeah.
different pricing, et cetera. So anyway, like I say, Jim had the opportunity to speak with our contact there and this week. And would you like to add something from your conversation?
Yeah, I mean, he's done a lot of research on what kind of surfaces work for pickleball on a, whether it's a paddle tennis court or elsewhere, and Jim's right, it's about $10,000-ish per court, plus shipping costs, and the installation would have to be something that would be in conjunction with our maintenance crew. So they'd have to have their specialists come up and meet with us and kind of do the install. So it's something we can do a little bit of research. He did send me some contacts and from some clubs that they use the surface on. So I think my first thought is let's see it in action this spring and
Field
summer.
trip.
Do a field trip. One of them was the Patterson Club up in Fairfield, which I'm pretty familiar with. There's a pro up there. Actually used to teach paddle tennis lessons at Weed Beach. So, we'll kind of see what kind of reviews they get, and then it might be something, if we want to pursue it, that we budget for, in the upcoming budget, so.
So the idea that you would use the paddle courts at Weed Beach,
Right. But that's the only paddle course we have.
yeah, I mean, we have right now concerns at Weed Beach already about a nature trail. So let alone adding a paddle courts.
Although they would be tucked behind, but yes, I hear you.
Yeah, and this is for a different time of year than the paddle play, right? And, you're trading one game for another, you're not
I'm
adding.
not supportive of it. I'm not unsupportive of it.
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
saying that we have concerns by the neighbors already. I'm just flagging that as an issue. I don't know if I agree with those concerns.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that we already have concerns that they don't want more things at that park.
we don't want more things.
They don't want any changes to Weed Beach, including the nature trail. Because we talked about that.
Well, we have a lot of pickleball players wanting to satisfy, and we have to figure out a short-term solution for them.
And
So
we as a
disagree.
commission, we represent 21,000 plus Darianites, not just neighbors.
I
I
don't
know.
disagree.
You raised it.
She's just making a reminder.
No, you're right.
I'm
I get it.
reminding that there's a very large vocal neighborhood group that we will have to consult with.
How vocal was it when we were putting in paddle?
I don't know, I wasn't.
I wasn't either, I'm just
So
saying.
that's where we need
Yeah,
the other members.
You know,
Call
in all
Susan.
honestly, I mean, I hear you. I do think that these tiles are an elegant solution because it is just trading, it's one spot and it's just trading one player for another player. It's not adding a new court, which, is potentially a long-term solution.
I don't disagree, I think it is
Okay,
an
great.
elegant solution.
Great.
I love the idea that we're reusing courts for a different season. In a place, and we're getting more courts in it. Clearly, there seems to be a desire and a need. So I don't
And the
disagree.
paddle hut is there. It's just the whole setup is kind of nice. If these tiles work.
If it works, it'll be great. Of course, because it's a budget situation, we won't be able to get it to 2025 at this point, right?
so I was just gonna ask on that.
Yeah,
If we can run programs and rent those out, right? I mean, they could be revenue generating as soon as we can tile them up, correct?
Yeah.
yeah.
And we're talking 10,000 a court. If we price towards that, and or potentially talk to locals in terms of donations, if they're so excited to play pickle, I don't think it necessarily has to be if we do this public-private.
We did get funds last time, right? For the pickleball court.
For the lining at Cherry
Right,
Lawn?
so we wanna try
Yes.
one, yeah.
Yeah, that was completely private.
Yeah, so my feeling is we can do the same. Jim, if you can get the pricing and we can go ahead and lay it out there and actually have a real conversation and say, starting Memorial Day or 4th of July, right, whatever we feel comfortable with,
Mhm.
it would be available again. And we can put it through the reservation system.
Yeah, I think the first step is to kind of see it in action. And,
Yeah.
and that wouldn't be until after the paddle season, so sometime in the spring or summer, maybe taking a look at some of the facilities that have it and see if it's something that has been successful for them. I think some of the ones on the list might be rolling it out this spring and summer. I think it's a fairly new concept, to be putting it over.
Yeah, he's done this throughout the country, so obviously we're not gonna get on a plane and fly
Right.
somewhere, we want something in this area.
I mean, ideally, if we could find some place that, they had them last year,
Right,
they're putting them back in and find out when they're going in and whether it's, a reasonable distance for a group of us to travel and
Mhm.
try out.
yeah.
that would be ideal, you know. What do you think the time of Jan would be like, April?
Probably April, May.
Yeah, paddle
Yeah.
season ends and then they would be switching over, so.
And also, if there is hesitation to do, full throttle on this, maybe we could advance maybe 1 or 2 courts so we get them in sooner.
Yeah.
And test them out a little bit too, that way, just to get,
Yeah.
to deliver some kind of solution
Right.
to this group.
I would like to see 2 courts. I'll take one and then maybe get another one afterwards or whatever, just so that we can get another 1 court
Get
case up and
started.
running. You know,
Has the group tried to come up with some sort of metrics in terms of, or how do we know how many we need? I mean, I hear like, well, we need as many as we can have, but just sort of practically speaking, how do we get our arms around, if the town's to think about building new permanent courts somewhere at some point, like what's the right number? I mean, especially if you said if the country clubs are adding, well, that in theory might take some of the people who use Cherry Lawn out of the mix because now they're playing at their own club or whatever. And, you know,
Yeah.
people are going over to Pickleball America, people are going over to Woodward Avenue. I mean, there are, a lot of, the place in Stanford's really nice. I mean, people like it.
yeah. but
So
then-
just, we have to figure out like what's the right,
right,
like
what-
what's
what-
the right number and how are you thinking about that as a group?
Right. I mean, it's hard to put your finger on what the number actually is. We do know that there's a wait. We know that the number of registrations was 2,000 already last year, so it's probably only going to grow this year. A lot of folks do go over to Pickleball America and play indoors in the winter, but in the summer they want to be outside. So they're going to want to play outside here. The fact that they are building these courts in their own neighborhoods and their driveways and stuff like that, I think speak to that they really want to get out and play. The YMCA, I did speak with them, and it's full all the time. They only have 1 court, but it's always being played over there. From what I understand, the town hall court is used pretty actively, especially with the senior men. Now, again, it's indoors. In the summer, it may not be as used, but it's a game that's played mostly outdoors. It's hard to put a real number on it. I think 2 courts would suffice for now. And then as Parks and Rec is able to measure that, okay, once we get 1, 2 courts up and running, and they're able to get from the registrations that this is the kind of volume that we have, that they constantly filled, then we'd say, okay, maybe we look for a 3rd, that kind of thing. But we can start doing that, or we can go off of the numbers that we have right now for the pickleball courts, or whichever one, to, as far as an actual number,
So to get 2 courts, you need 20 grand. We need to find 20
It would
grand.
be 10 grand a court. And did he share that number with you?
It was 10,500 per quart plus shipping costs. I don't know what
Yeah,
I don't know where it's manufactured and where it's shipped from, but I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it's cheap to ship.
Can't be.
right. There was an in cost associated with putting it together. He'd come down and work, take 3 people, slap it together. They would come down and show us how to do it and how to pick it up. So, if we could get something going possibly by the summer, that would be great. I think it'd be a great solution to be able to do that. Maybe it's private funding that we have to go that route, so that we don't have to wait for the next budget cycle. But anyway, to get back to your answer, I would think 2 courts for now. I don't know if I'd want to go beyond that. And then just from there, again, remember, of course, if we make the investment in the tiles, then that's something that, we would want to be sure that those courts are going to always be used because we made an investment, right? So, but it's 20 grand, and I think that we would be able to easily make that money back with the fees that we would be collecting. So, okay.
Thank you.
So let's see where that goes. We can continue that conversation. Helen Johnson, who's on the team, also met with the management team over at Pickleball America in Stanford. They would like to work out a partnership with us. And they offered us, we don't have it completely wrapped up yet, but they would give us a Darien rate of $40 per hour. The rate now is $68 per member on top of a membership fee to join Pickleball America, so it would just be $40 an hour. Problem there is that you need to make the commitment in advance. So the hours are 7 a.m. to 6 that they could give it to us, because at night they're pretty booked, right? So 7 a.m. to 6, they would make a court available to all Darien residents. At $40 an hour, you're talking $440 a day. if we're not occupying the court, then we're eating that money. So we have to really come up with, is that realistic to take a court from 7 to 6? Or should we be doing it only 4 hours a day or 5 hours a day or whatever? So again, it's very early stages right now. All we know is that we have locked in a rate, and now we would have to determine how many hours a week or a day for 7 days would we want that. Well, it's
I'm
Monday to
not sure I'm
Friday.
clear, would the town be renting them, or they're just available if a Darien resident wants to call up and book it?
So I spoke with Jim, you can probably speak to this better than I can. Jim and Cassie were saying that we would have to use the Darien Parks and Rec reservation system, right, for booking. Is that correct?
I really haven't put too much thought
It's
into it.
kinda like the way-
I got a couple of other things going on right now on my plate, but I really haven't put too much thought into this. I had a brief conversation with Cassie about it, and I think we have to figure out a way where if we're putting out money to a facility without a guaranteed money coming back to us, that's problematic.
To Lori's
So-
point, I thought is there a way where the Darien residents just get a discount? So you just say that you're a Darien resident, it actually doesn't go through Parks and Rec. You just reserve it yourself because you're a Darien resident?
Sure.
Yeah, is that something?
Yeah, I guess where the problem comes in is committing to how much upfront. It's not like you can just walk in the door and say, hey, I'm a Darien resident, here's my $40 and jump on the court. The court needs to be used.
So they want.
They're giving us the discounts because they want the
They're
court.
looking for
No,
some kind of.
they're
guaranteed
They're looking for an
Because it's
upfront
guaranteed.
payment.
Yeah, it's guaranteed.
It's guaranteed 5 days a week,
Yeah,
from
so-
7 to 6.
so-
I think it gets really messy real quick with us using taxpayer funds for private and hoping that we fill it
Yeah.
and using our Parks and Rec team resources.
So again, Cassie, conversation I had with Cassie was that there was already and she thought that we may have to do this because like the tennis, we do it with the tennis club up on Old Kings Highway or something like that.
Yeah,
There's a system.
Kings Highway runs tennis lessons during the winter, so they basically give us the available time that they have, and we figure out what different levels we want to do, whether it's kids or adults,
Right.
and we advertise it that way. So we probably have, 30, 40 different lessons that we offer. It's a program, so folks will sign up for us. At the end of the day, we have to pay Kings Highway, a percentage of
Right.
what we bring in. So that's guaranteed. Like, if we don't fill, we advertise in advance beginner tennis lesson and it doesn't fill, then it just gets canceled. We're not, there's no penalty to us.
Okay,
So,
so not out the money.
yeah.
So again, this is where it gets sticky with Pickleball America, although they gave us a good rate.
Mhm.
It's not like you just walk in the door and you say, here's my $40, I'll play. They need a guarantee, so I'm not sure if that's going to work out for us. But that would be an immediate solution that could satisfy, a lot of folks who are looking for a court to play on, but it may not.
Hours are hard for people too, I think.
Well, yeah, I feel like it might work better if it was like a set group. Like I think the DMA, the Durham Institute taught it, it's just like, okay, you get a set group of individuals who say, we want to go over and play every Tuesday from 10 to 11. And they commit to doing it for like an 8-week session or something, as opposed to just, people sort of randomly saying, oh, I want to play pickleball tomorrow. I think if it was something that was more organized groups where people
Or more
committed in
pro- or
advance
more-
or took clinics together or whatever.
More program oriented, similar to what.
Yeah, I mean, if we were able to secure the same thing for next winter, and we could offer it up, as a pre-sale, basically, and know that we were gonna get through the same thing as summer camps or any of the other programs and things like that, where we know the money's getting through. I think it's a good option to look into. I think short term, I think it's potentially messy, but I think long term
Yeah,
could definitely be part of the program.
It could be, you could offer pickleball lessons, right?
Yep.
And maybe similar to what you do at Kings Highway.
Sure,
Yeah,
as long as we're not beholden to if the
Yeah.
classes don't fill,
yeah.
because we can't control that.
well, that's what I meant, there needs to be more conversation, I'll have more conversation with Jim and Cassie about, how we can maybe fine tune this. But this is something that just happened last week, where they came back to us with these numbers. Something for us to think about, and I knew right off the bat that it may not work out. But, we're scratching and clawing to try to find some short-term solutions here for pickleball.
Right, and meanwhile, they're trying to build their business, so, and,
Sure.
you know, they definitely, and again, it doesn't help everybody, but for people who have flexibility during the day, they're not busy, my husband goes over, they're not busy during the day, they have capacity, so there are definitely are populations in town who could, you know, could possibly take advantage of that. And
Right.
go over it, and the pros, they are some of the same pros that we use here for our
Yeah,
lessons in
Steve,
town. There's Steve and Rick and people that, you know, we all know and love in terms of being good pickleball instructors. And, you know, we have a lot of diehards, they're playing outside in the winter and they're showing up with their shovels and, you know, they only flip over here and use this gym if they absolutely have to. You know, they absolutely have to. And then they disturb our yoga class, but that's another day.
I think it's probably also worth more dialogue, because maybe they'll, I mean, certainly if they're empty, they're not making anything, so maybe they'll back off on being so stringent on pre-selling the courts. You
Yeah.
know, maybe
You're right, Amy.
have more dialogue and just say, we really want to do this and pursue it, we have to figure it out, here's our
Mhm.
hard issue.
I was surprised by how many Darien residents are already going over and paying a $199 annual fee plus $68 every time you use the court, so, you know, but again, it's now, not later when the weather gets nice and when they want to be outside, so,
But it's an option in the, if it's 100 degrees or 95 degrees, I gotta tell you, our courts,
yeah,
they're hot during the day.
okay.
You know.
Well, anyway, next month I'll come back with more information on it, okay? So the other thing was, there were two other groups that we've been talking to, and thanks to Amy, she's been attending our meetings and has also taken the time to make some phone calls and talk to folks at venues that she's been at, one being Chelsea Piers. So there's a gentleman over there I'm gonna be having a conversation with. It could be the same kind of deal that PBA is offering us, where they're gonna say, sure, we have these courts available Monday to Friday, during these hours, when there's not a lot of people on there, we'll give you a discounted rate. But what I'll do is think about, again, what everybody's mentioned here, and not get stuck into a guarantee and just say, okay, we want really a rate, where if you come in, you're a Darien resident, here's your rate, you can play in the court. Maybe that's the way it will work out, but I still have to have a conversation with him, okay? Another gentleman that I'm hoping to talk to this week is over at the Darien Ice Rink. He hasn't called me back yet, but this one you may chuckle about, but when you think about it, a good business person, you know, the possibility of maybe putting courts on the roof of the Darien Ice Rink and having another revenue stream for him. So it sounds like he's already thought about this, about the possibility of doing it. So we're gonna have a conversation with him that if he's really gonna move forward with this, you know, how do we open this up to a partnership or something, that where we can take advantage of that too. Obviously,
More
we're
of a
not
long-term
gonna
solution.
build them, but that's a long-term solution, yeah. I mean, I don't know, is he gonna just line the roof as it is now with chalk and say, here's the courts? Or is he gonna go to the effort of actually building something, and creating a whole new revenue stream for that
Who owns the rent
operation?
now?
Owned by the New Canaan, what is it?
No, they lease it. So
Okay.
there's a fellow who's in charge of it with his partners who
Okay.
own it, it's privately owned. And then the New Canaan Winter Club leases it.
Oh, New Canaan, okay.
And he looked into putting a second one, when things were pretty hot for rink space a couple of years ago, before Chelsea Piers was built and so on. He looked into putting another rink on the roof and had it lined and so on. He ultimately abandoned the idea because he was trying to figure out how to get people up there, and it just got confusing, and then other opportunities came up, and he detoured from that idea, which is kind of a fun idea. But he was open to it, and I think, you know, we're just trying to, and his committee is trying to turn over every rock in this instance, both from a short-term and a long-term solution. And as he mentioned, I've just been attending the meetings, kind of quietly just listening, and yeah, I mean, you're they're working hard and this rink idea comes into the long-term solution, or maybe other spaces around town or parks too that'll work too, but just trying to be
Yeah.
creative and figure it out.
That's what it is, just trying to be creative, as you can see from these recommendations. But,
Stanford trim rinks was a hard no, and also it wasn't great because it was Stanford. But,
right, right, we're trying to get something that's
More
here,
local.
in town, where, make it real easy for somebody to run 2 minutes over and play a game, come back, just like they do today up at Cherry Lawn in the courts of the
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, at the end of the day, unless we can convert an existing tennis court for hybrid play, which would add 2 additional pickleball courts, there really isn't any other near-term solution. So the committee's recommendation is that we provide temporary, not permanent, lines on 1 court at Cherry Lawn. Parks and Rec would purchase 2 kits and portable nets. It would be an investment of no more than $300. These lines and nets will not damage the court. They can be stored in a box in the corner of the court. When people want to come and play, they would bring them out, they put the lines down, put the portable net there, and would create 2 courts on that tennis court. This would immediately give us 2 additional courts and assist with the demand that we're having on the existing courts that we have up at Cherry Lawn. It will not impact the high school JV team. Again, not having lines on the court. Parks and Rec would be able to gather data on the usage of the tennis and pickleball courts, and we can decide at a later date, based on the data we receive, whether to consider permanently lining a court for pickleball. I hate to use the word permanent, because I know we as a commission said we would not permanently line them, so I want to stick with temporary lining that will not create any damage to the courts. I've discussed this with Cassie and Jim, the issue around congestion at Cherry Lawn. Should we just add 2 courts? What kind of congestion would that create? But we are moving our summer camps from Cherry Lawn up to Highland Park this summer, and the school bus is no longer there, as you know, as well. So, dropping off kids as they have in the past. So this shall no longer be a concern, but really adding 2 courts is the same amount of bodies as 2 sets of doubles on a tennis court. So, that's our short-term solution, putting it out there. That's our recommendation, that we take 1 tennis court and put down temporary lines.
How much are the temporary lines cost?
Total investment, about 100, we're looking at, for a decent set, about $100, and then that's another $100. So it's roughly $300 total, is what we'd be laying on. Cassie didn't think that that would be a problem with finding $300, to do that. If we wanted to start doing that in a couple of weeks, we could have a solution up there. Or we could say May 1st or whatever.
Louise?
I thought we settled all this. I love the idea of using the paddle courts for pickleball. That makes the most sense. It's also away from the beach. It's away from a lot of private houses, so the noise factor isn't going to affect anybody. To me, that just makes the most sense. They're just sitting there empty. Why not use them for pickleball?
Well, the tennis courts are sitting there. That's why we're saying, let's use a tennis court.
But no, but then we get into the issue of more congestion at Cherry Lawn, which is very real.
But we're relieving the congestion by moving the camps this summer to
It's-
Highland
it's-
Farm. So that period of time where the congestion really was there will now be relieved.
Jim, the other day, there was barely a place to park a car in the middle of the week. It was so busy.
There's soccer there in the summer, there's baseball, there's nature center,
And the gardeners.
and the gardeners.
Yeah,
So
it's
it is-
busy.
It's still busy. Did you
And
look
the
about, what about
playground. I mean,
temporary
the-
lines?
And the
Well,
playground.
there'll be no playground actually by the time we can put this up, and for a limited cost, while we just collect data, compared to $10,000 per court down at Weed Beach, right? So hold on one second.
Sure.
If we look at this just as a data collection point, right? Saying the playground will be under construction, therefore we will not have a fair amount of cars.
But is it not going to be ready? You said by May, June, the playground will be installed at Cherry Lawn?
Yes.
It should be ready sometime in June.
Yes, but construction starts in March. So March, April, May, that would give us at least 3 months where you will not have the cars there for the playground. And These are not permanent lines. They cost $300. We can put them down. We can actually put them as only used by the reservation system. Therefore, once again, it's a data collection system. We can see how much we're actually using. And if those are filled every day, 7 days a week for 3 months, then oh my God, I guess we've noticed there's a real demand. If they aren't, then we've recognized that the demand isn't nearly as much and maybe the cars aren't as much. So this is the cheapest, fastest solution for us to offer at least just 2 courts in town over our 4. And at the same time, we could look into, because I do agree that paddle and weed is definitely a great opportunity. But that's, again, costs a little bit more. It can give us the time while we're collecting this data to also raise, private funds.
So why not put the temporary lines on at Weed Beach from one of the tennis courts? Why go back to Cherry Lawn?
The volume of, and Jim, I think you can speak to that, but the volume of
Yeah, the
activity
volume of
down there
play,
from
it's
the
just-
lessons, right?
Yeah, between lessons and the high school use and
If it's
Other
more at
res-
Weed Beach?
much more.
Okay. No, just asking the question.
Yeah.
But I didn't know the answer.
You know, the Cherry Lawn courts really are not being used by anything other than the JV girls teams during that 6 to 8 week period. So other than that, it's just drop in play. But Mary Louise, to go back as far as the number of bodies, it's 2 courts, which is equal to 2 doubles games of tennis. So 4 people wanting to go out, it's no different than that. It's not like we're adding 4 courts, we're just adding 2 courts, which would be the equivalent of 2 doubles tennis games.
But
I'm
each
confused by that.
court
If you
you
have
have
4
four-
people on 2, that's 8 versus 4.
8 cars.
It's twice as many people.
If you would have 1, 2, 3, 4, well, 4 and 4. 2 courts for 2 courts of pickleball, 4 and 4, right?
On one tennis court.
Yeah.
So if people were playing tennis doubles, that's 4 people. If
Oh,
2 groups are
Okay,
playing
okay, right, so
4 people each pickleball, that's 8. So
Right,
it's still
8
8
versus
versus
4.
It's double.
That's 8 versus 4. Which isn't a huge number.
But it really puts us in the same place as what we voted,
Not to do.
Not to
it
do
is what
that.
we voted not to do, with the idea that we wanted to, A, get the playground constructed, see what the traffic, and then hopefully get the funding for the traffic study, which, still made it through the selectmen, still has to go through the board of finance. And whatever, we get the money, do the traffic study, and then really see what it is. And, I only thought about the tennis courts is we really didn't finish the tennis courts until well into the summer. So, and I think people do tend to play less outdoor. I think people move, there are a lot, there's the indoor tennis bowls and whatever. So I don't think we have full understanding of what the use of the tennis courts is gonna be. I'm not ready to just say, oh, nobody's using them. I mean, I have been over there times where there were people on tennis and nothing on pickleball. I think we have to be careful about anecdotal
Well, we're not
evidence and
taking
really
away,
understand.
we're not taking away the 3rd tennis court. We're just saying that it can be converted to 2 pickleball courts. The portables will be there when that tennis court's not being used. The pickleball folks to come over, put their portable net out, put down the lines and play pickleball.
Do you?
Right now, everything's drop in anyway. It's not like you make a reservation for those
It's
courts.
still really no different than what we voted against, we're just not making it.
Well, I thought we mostly
We
voted
vote against
the
actually lining
lines.
it.
Yeah, the
Actual
lines,
lining,
permanent
because then the
lining.
Permanent
JV
line.
team couldn't play.
So this is temporary.
Right.
But do they make reservations on those courts for tennis?
We allow reservations for the season, so if if you wanted to play every Wednesday at 6 o'clock, you could do that. It's few and far between, that we get that.
I'm just trying to think, so if the tennis players wanted to play and there are temporary lines at courts and there's pickleball players all the time, will it essentially become a pickleball court because we have a reservation system? And it's not as equally balanced for the tennis players is all I'm thinking. I'm still concerned about congestion at Cherry Lawn.
Which was our overriding concern.
Yeah, and nothing, I think it's a great solution, I'm just concerned about the congestion and the safety.
Well, I know we can't vote on it tonight. Can we continue discussion and put it on for next month?
And absolutely continue.
I mean, right now it's the only solution, to be honest with you. We don't have another solution. So if we don't go with that, which is just temporary lining, to accommodate the overflow that we already have up there, we will not have a solution then for this season, that's all.
And how do we manage, you're saying it's a kit, so where does the kit stay? How does it not get stolen? How do we know that people
We would
pick
have
it up
a-
when they're done with it?
It has to be
Well,
locked.
we got to talk about the lockbox that we would have on it, but there would be a box similar to what Steve does now, where he puts his equipment, he has boxes.
But
where
only
he stores
Steve
his
can
equipment.
access it and his staff.
Well, staff, whatever, but we would have a box in the corner of that tennis court that would house these things, and when you're gonna play, you just take the lines out and you put them back when you're done playing. It's really, it's very simple to put down.
No, but I'm just saying, how does it not get stolen? How do we?
Well, we would, yeah, we'd have to talk, I could talk to Jim and Cassie about how we do that. I don't know, we would have to figure that out. Yes, it would have to be locked, but we would have to figure out how we get access to a key somewhere to be able to go and access the equipment. I don't know. Do
So,
we do that anywhere else, where we lock a box and people have access? I guess down at Reed Beach, you have the hut, the guy at the hut that,
Yeah, but we don't give access to them.
No, the hut's
Yeah.
staffed.
It's staffed, yeah, the other boxes that we have locked are from, tennis lessons or.
So let's continue discussion through the next month, and if we can put it on for next month on a potential vote, I think that's.
yeah, Jim, I know Pam was very concerned about the congestion at Cherry Lawn and everything that goes down there, on there. And that there have been many issues in the past. I get that Island Park, the camps are going over there, I think it's a great idea. I think there's still a lot that goes on at Cherry Lawn. And there's a lot of little kids. And a very small parking lot, and it just still is a safety concern. And I just would, if we can get some idea of what issues we've had at Cherry Lawn from a safety perspective for the next meeting too, so we know what we're thinking about. We still haven't finished a parking and sort of flow or study.
How much space is the construction of the playground gonna take up too? There's gonna be a lot of work trucks and equipment, and they're gonna need
They're 7 to 3,
space.
right? They're 7 to 3, then they leave, and whatever space they're taking up is gonna be where parents would have been with children anyway.
Yeah, I get it.
Alright, well,
Yeah.
I would suggest we table it until next month.
Another issue I think we should discuss is whether we do a field study rather than a traffic study at Cherry Lawn. So we find out
What do you mean by field study?
for the entire, for all of our parks, that we find out exactly who's doing what, when, so that the thing could be more equitably distributed across all of our parks. And we don't have such a thing. And that almost should precede any traffic study that we do.
And we didn't put in, I mean, the
But
budget
we
was.
could, but you
was-
could substitute it.
Well, you can't exactly.
Don't we have some understanding of that through just reservations and who's,
In events,
Yeah,
programming, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's times at Cherry Lawn where it's very busy, there's times where it's
The
not.
beach is very busy.
It's just, it's one of the busiest parks. Reed Beach is one of the busiest parks.
But I think more of an effort should be made to move many of the activities at Cherry Lawn out of Cherry Lawn, someplace else.
Well, there's some you don't have some places to put.
there isn't anywhere else.
You know,
When I looked at the numbers at Reed Beach, it's just as busy, if not more busy.
right, where do you put it, where do you put soccer programs after school when every other soccer field is filled?
Baseball too.
Baseball.
Baseball's, yeah,
You know,
baseball's
it's-
scrambling.
Nature center is there.
Right, there's, if we could move some of these groups, we would. But, when you have soccer programs or the soccer association that's busting at the seams, and, they're using pretty much every field in town, and a lot of the elementary schools are under construction, and those fields aren't available to them, it exasperates, it's an issue, I understand, it's definitely it's a busy park, I've seen it when it's very busy, I've seen it when it's not, and, I understand, what Jim's dealing with, so.
And March, April, May is the start of the garden season, so you have 60 gardeners coming over now to work their plots. So that's
Sure.
another addition.
Okay.
He came up with great
Well-
creative solutions.
Yeah,
so.
well, thank you. Well, we're trying, but to be honest, every turn we hit a wall. So the committee's recommendation is to convert one tennis court to 2 permanent courts. That's our only hope for getting additional space for this summer, for
2
this
permanent or
season.
2 temporary, I'm sorry.
1 tennis court for 2
Temporary.
temporary
Okay, I thought you said.
paddleball courts, pickleball courts. Other than that, we can't figure out where else we can put them, so. And as far as long-term, we've identified 2 locations that we would put out for consideration. We'll see if we could. Of course, it involves a lot of processes and much more discussion than we'll be able to handle tonight, but those would be permanent pickleball courts. And we thought about the senior center site behind the Middlesex School is currently just a pile of dirt, that possibly something could be built there down the road. And then the other would be building a 4th extension of the 3 back tennis courts and make that a pickleball court at Weed Beach. So, and I think we may have all talked about that as well. But either of these projects would take 16 to 24 months to get through, and we're talking about almost 2 years out before we see anything from them. So, more work to be done there, numbers to be put together and all that, but that would be long-term solutions.
Oh, Great Island, I always raise that question, sorry.
Everybody brings up great
That's
ideas.
very long,
Yeah, let's
that's
not,
very long term.
All right.
That's very, very long term.
Yeah. So that's it. The one other thing I'll add is that, the noise situation, where neighbors may step up and say, I don't want it, too close, I hear, I want to hear the pounding of that ball coming off the paddle. There is a company called Owl that has come out with a paddle that now has been accepted by the US Pickleball Association. It will cost $149. We could require that paddle be used on our courts in this town.
Is that more expensive than a normal
Yes.
pickleball?
It's a little more expensive, yeah.
It's
I
like
don't know how
double,
much they
it's like
cost.
double what I paid.
But that could be a solution for us down the road if we're gonna run into the noise situation.
It is a little bit.
So I think there'll be more solutions within the next couple of months, because the sport has just taken on, and more people are getting into it, more manufacturers are creating quieter balls, quieter paddles, et cetera, to overcome these challenges that they have. So, that's it, that's my report.
Thank you. All right, chew on. When I hear about the growth, I just always, hear about, the 190% versus 10%. It's like, well, if I had 1 million, there's so many more tennis players that the percentage is off a much bigger base, so, when something's starting to, you get a brand new, you have Lipton that makes tea bags, and they say, well, our growth was 9%, and then you have a new startup company that makes tea bags, and they're like, well, my growth's 100%, but they have, 0.002 of the market, whatever, so it's just, numbers can tell you a lot of
And our
things.
programs for tennis are so super popular.
And Jim's
So-
gonna talk about registrations today when he gets to his report, so anyway, but thank you for all the work, Jim. I know you guys have been really digging up every rock.
Pretty much turned over every rock at this point.
Every rock there is a turnover.
Thanks.
Okay, Mary Louise on invasives. I didn't put gardeners on here because they were just here last month and.
Right. All right, well, we've had 2 meetings since our last Park and Rec meeting, at which time Chris Filmer made his presentation and regarding the path at Cherry Lawn, and our committee voted unanimously in favor of going forward with that. Let me say one other thing. We, last year's budget for the invasives was 18,000. We put in this year a request for 45,000 to cover the invasives. The Board of Selectmen at their meeting said there was no backup for that. I submitted a 4-page proposal summarizing everything that the invasives group has done since it was formed 2 years ago, with 2 pages listing all of the trees, bushes, vines that we wanted to plant in and around the pond area. And the budget was increased from 18,000 to 25,000.
Thank you for doing that.
They were very clear that going forward, they wanted much more specificity in terms of everything that we were doing. And there clearly was a lack of understanding as to what an invasive is, and whether once you cut it down, that's a one-off and it's gone forever, which, as we have discovered with the trees of heaven, that is not the case. So with this in mind, we are going forward with a major educational outreach for the town, and which I will describe in a minute. We currently will be taking soil samples as the weather warms up a little bit and becomes more stable, which will be sent to the University of Connecticut to find out the exact pH factor, so we can make sure we put the right trees and the right bushes in the right place in and around that whole pond area. We also are probably going to move the trees that were planted last year at Cherry Lawn into that area. And they're young enough now.
Not all of them.
A lot of them are going to be moved in anticipation of whenever we do the dredging in that pond, where the equipment is going to come in that same area. So in the meantime, Victoria is going to identify
She did.
every one of the trees that are now there, because there's no tag on them at the moment. So that's underway. Laura and Joanne are leading the education effort, and they're coordinating with the Pollinator Pathway, the Beautification Committee, the DCA Garden Club, and the Darien Land Trust, so that everyone is on the same page.
And the library.
Pardon?
And they're doing it with the library.
Yes, exactly. Both Joanne and Laura do a program during May and June every Friday, where people can bring in their plants or whatever if they have a problem or they have a question, and they solve it for them. So at that time, they're going to distribute information about the invasives, what they are, how do you get rid of them, and what do you put in their place. With reference to that, Sean at the Garden Center has agreed to do a special program for the Park and Rec Committee and also for the Invasives Committee on invasives, and that is scheduled for Saturday, March 9th, 10:30 in the morning, and I hope everybody's going to be able to go to that.
Why don't we invite the Board of Selectmen to come?
Pardon?
Why don't we invite the Board of Selectmen to come? If they can understand.
Actually, that's a good idea.
Great idea.
I will add that to the list.
Understand
Good
what
idea.
invasives are.
Very good.
Sorry, you said that was at 10?
10:30,
10:30 at the Gardner Center.
Gardner
Yeah.
Center,
Yeah,
correct.
Sean does a fabulous job.
Yeah,
Yes, good.
and we also want to send out, using the town, our Park and Rec email address group, to maybe feature one invasive a month and send out a blast to people, everybody, alerting them to the fact, this is what you have to get rid of. We also made a decision regarding the trees of heaven, of which we took 40 down, not all of them at Cherry Lawn. But there is, the only way to really stop them from coming back is to use herbicides. And the master gardeners agreed that that was the only way to go. So I have to talk to Sandy and see if your crew can do that, or if we have to go outside and have professionals come in because the stuff is so dangerous. And it literally has to be painted on, you can't spray it. You have to make a cut in where the tree has been cut down and then just paint on the herbicide.
Can we do that at the same time the playground is being done, so there aren't kids around?
No, it's not a question, it will not affect them.
It's not a spray, no, it's a
Okay.
paint.
It's a paint,
So it's isolated
Correct.
and localized.
so it only impacts the person who's doing it, not necessarily the environment.
Correct, correct.
Thank you.
But it should only attack the tree stump.
The tree stump, yeah.
Correct, because otherwise,
Because the roots go.
they just keep going out, and then you got more trees coming up. And it's really unfortunate because that tree is so attractive, it's very fast growing, which is why it's so popular, and it's everywhere.
And it's misnamed.
It is definitely misnamed, and it is, quote, "A tree grows in Brooklyn," that's the tree,
That's the
the
tree.
Atlantis, yes. However, because it hosts the spotted lanternfly, and it's the only tree that hosts the spotted lanternfly, and we all know about that, and that bug eliminates all of our native trees, just gobbles them up and kills them. So we have to get rid of the tree of heaven. A number of people have offered to assist on Earth Day, Arbor Day, with some sort of project which has not yet been determined, but will be. And I will let you know about that. So that is pretty much it.
You guys have been busy.
Yes,
Well,
and
that's still going on.
finally, we're going to focus basically on finishing the work at Cherry Lawn and on whatever we're doing down at Weed Beach as far as the dune planting and so on. So that's going to be our major focus. And we're going to keep track of the amount of time that we have to spend on this entire project so that we have a better idea in terms of what we're going to need going forward as we move into the other parks, because we've got problems basically in all the parks. And we have the whole issue of maintenance, what we have to keep up, maintain what we've done. So that's the invasive tree. And we've got 8 people on the committee, which is very good.
Very knowledgeable, capable people.
Very
Correct.
knowledgeable.
Correct. And Chris Stillmer is also serving as an advisor.
Great, thank you, Mary Louise. Janet did not have too much to report, other than that she has, secured her committee members. I hope she would be able to give a little bit of background on who they were. But I don't believe they've actually assembled yet, so I'll be connecting with her, talk about when they're gonna get going. I know the money has to be committed by the end of the year, so they need to kind of get on it, and I'll go over all the, the protocols, and hopefully she can get started soon. Jim, any thoughts about staff support? Is that gonna be you or somebody else?
For the playground.
Yeah,
I'd assume it'd be me,
okay,
as of right now.
okay.
Just put it on the list.
It's on the list.
Okay, Jim, then we can go into your report.
Okay, I'm not gonna read word by word what we have. Just an update on the Weed Beach Meadow and Trail update. Update on the update. The bid specs, I believe, are pretty much complete. I know Kate was reviewing them, Kate Bush. They are supposed to hit the papers on March 7th, with the bid opening on April 4th. At which point, we'll have some cost estimates that could be reviewed by the Board of Selectmen on April 8th. That's a little bit of an update there. The paddle tennis court is, actually started construction today. They have to do a little bit of site work there, and they're gonna be putting in concrete piers. And that will be the first step, and then the whole court will go up. And then we have to do some piping for propane and electrical work and things like that. So that will be, knock on wood, will be done sometime over the spring. So I think we're in good shape there. We did start registration, like Lori was talking about, spring and summer registration today. We processed last time I checked, about $420,000 worth of registration, so it was pretty busy. I think we had about 600 adults and children in our tennis lesson program. That's our biggest program.
Did you just say it's our biggest program?
Yes, yeah, so it was, the numbers are way up from last year for tennis lessons,
We're
so.
one of the largest tennis teams in the towns around here, just so everyone knows, at our high school.
The largest what?
Tennis teams, our JV and our JV team.
Are the largest?
Yeah, because we have such a feeder program into it.
And there's a lot of different, I mean, it's not only us, it's some of the clubs that the kids belong to, and some
Yeah.
of the other organizations that they, you know, that they belong to. It's great. I mean, this high school sports are great
Great.
overall, but the tennis, there's a lot of kids, and that's what we were talking about, Weed Beach. When you go down there in the afternoon on the spring, it's either our tennis lessons or the high school girls are down there practicing, so it's a big, Weed Beach is very busy. Other than that, I don't think there's anything that, you know, other than that's in the report. Kayak lottery, if anybody's looking to get in the kayak lottery, the deadline's the 11th. So try to get your name on there. And, you know, right, I had my first interview today for lifeguards, so we have a lot of lifeguards coming back, and so we don't have to hire, I think last year I had to hire 16. It's not as many this year, I think it's 6 or 7, so that started up, and it's just, it's a busy time. We're gonna be down a staff member towards the end of March where Tamara, our office administrator, is gonna be on leave. We have somebody, Tara Cochran, who worked in our office for several years, part-time, who's gonna fill in our absence. So it's ramping up to, you know, we're getting into the busy season. So registration started, went very well. We unfortunately had some emails from folks that just didn't get into classes that they wanted to get into, and we do our best to either offer another instructor if we can. Sometimes we're restricted, or another day of the week for some programs. So that's what we're going to be doing over the next few days, is trying to get some of those folks off waiting lists that come back on. So if anybody has any questions, feel free.
Congratulations on the bathroom, right? That's coming along.
Yes, and
for Fairtrade.
Jim's been very helpful with that. He's working along with Sandy, and Rich, and the guys are going to be doing very shortly, starting some painting. They're going to paint the bathrooms down there, and they're going to do kind of a nautical.
Yeah. Yeah, this week, in fact, Sandy reached out to Lori and I today,
Yep.
said that this week they think they'll start the paint job down there. Showed us the two
Send us the color combos, yep.
light gray on the top, dark blue on the bottom, little dark blue on the bottom, and then like a blue wave stencil going across.
With some shading.
And he's gonna add like some kind of like a wave foam actually to it as well. So Mike, I guess, who's on Sandy's team, does murals and things like that.
He's the one that does the signs and such, I think, right?
Yeah, Mike Moretti, he's very talented,
Okay.
very talented.
So I was having a conversation with him last week. He was really excited about it and looking forward to doing it. So I think it's gonna look great.
Nice,
really.
and then we'll have new partitions. We had picked out the color for the partitions. It'll blend. The floor will be that like sprinkly stuff with grays and blues, so.
Epoxy floor is
Nice.
gonna go in. Everything will be done by, probably 2 weeks before Memorial Day.
It should look nice, and then hopefully our flowers should all come back. I mean, they're perennials that were designed to, they go in the winter, but then they should.
That's great news, because people have been clamoring for rehab for a while,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
it's really nice.
It's gonna look great.
It's
And
gonna
I
look
gotta say, Sandy's team, and you gotta, give them a big
Yeah,
applause,
they're
because
great.
these guys really, they stepped up, and said, look, what do you need? And they never blinked. They just said, we'll be there, we'll figure it out, we'll fit it into our schedules and make it happen. So, I mean, even, there's benches in there, there's a changing room that needed to be painted. They'll paint them. Just fit it into the schedule. It's just, really great team.
Yeah, they're fortunate that we have some warm weather coming up, and in this time of the year, it's difficult for them to do a lot of outside work. But we have the weather where they can do some of the inside painting. If it wasn't gonna be in the 60s, in the 40s at night, I don't know, they might not be able to get to it right now. But yeah, they'll do a good job with it.
Yeah, no, and they did a great job painting the outside last year, and it looked just so noticeably better last year, so we repainting the outside, you know, taking down the old signage, we have all the beautiful plantings now, and get the inside done. Yeah, yeah.
Any other questions, I'm happy to answer, but that's, you know, the report is, as stands, I guess.
I had a question, and you guys answered it. I just wanted to know if the wave was on the inside or the outside. The name, it's on the inside.
It is on
It's
the
on the
inside,
inside.
yes.
Thank you.
It was on the inside.
That's
Any more questions for Jim? Nope, okay. All right, Grape Island update, the island will be open to pedestrian traffic the day after tomorrow, March 1st. And it's exciting. I think you all know, I think I mentioned that at this point, there are no cars, no bikes, nothing with wheels, motorized or not. Pedestrian only, no parking on site. There are some no parking signs going up in the immediate neighborhood. People will be encouraged to park down at Pear Tree and then walk over. There are no dogs at this time, so it's just people. Ed was gonna put a few garbage cans out, you know, because we really feel, we just don't want things getting trashed up and whatever, although I think technically there's really no picnicking or anything right now. We still thought that there should be some trash cans going out. There are no restrooms, of course. But it is a chance for people to just, you know, get on site. There's so many people, despite the huge attendance that we had at the open house that, you know, have not been on the island yet, are anxious to see it. So it'll give people an opportunity to get on. We're hoping, I'm not sure what the weather's supposed to be on Saturday, but kind of expecting a lot. Members of the committee will be there Saturday morning at the gates to greet people. The widening of the road is, you know, proceeding through the system with the intent of getting that work done, you know, late spring into early summer so that the road will be too wide. There's been a lot of thought and care given to the design and moving the pillars and having the entrance remain very compatible to, you know, sort of the beauty that there is now. It's just, you know, the lovely natural state that's all with the pretty stone pillars and really maintaining, you know, that look. You know, there's been a lot of care and attention given to that.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on moving the pillars? Will they be, they have to be
One of the
moved?
two will be moved.
One of the two, but it will be there.
It'll be effectively
Just-
recreated.
Okay, is it the one on the left or the right?
The left.
Okay,
The one on the left,
towards the neighbor's home,
towards the left.
towards the left, okay,
So it's towards the left.
okay.
Yeah,
better
because
so.
apparently our property line is right next to that right pillar.
Yeah, it is.
It's just right there, so we
Right there.
can't go that way.
Okay. And how are you handling the Belgian block sides of the road?
I don't remember all the technical details, but I know there's been a lot of attention to maintaining the look and feel.
Okay, I'm sure.
Reusing them.
Yeah, we're gonna reuse what they
Reusing
can.
them, yeah.
And just widen it and then
And
widen
widen
the
it.
look. Because there's been a lot of discussion about the
Yeah.
look.
I don't remember all the specifics, but there's definitely been a lot of attention to maintaining the look of it.
Great, 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 great.
Lori, quick question. So the park will be open till dusk, just like
Yeah, don't do
every
that.
park?
Mhm.
Right, okay. And then I know those gates don't close at night now
Yeah.
because residents do drive in there to
Yeah,
access
they'll
their
live there.
homes.
Yeah.
So will somebody be there to police that people aren't walking on after dusk? Or-
My understanding is that the
non-residents?
police will be increasing their presence, so I would assume so.
They're probably already there too.
I think they already are there, but I think especially after it's officially open, they're probably going to expect that they're gonna be doing more things through. I don't know what you mean.
I understand that the property on the outside has been sold and it's gonna be developed, right?
You mean the parcel that the Ziegler family
Yeah.
owned? Yes, it was sold.
So how is that construction going to,
I don't know that we know much about what
I don't
plans
think
are.
we do.
I know it's, even I think it's like 23 lots or something
Yeah.
are there, but what the time frame is, what we don't even discuss it at the meeting. Which is the only thing that's discussed is that we have no access on that property. There is another road
yeah,
that you can get out and unlock. The town has no access to that road, no usage at all. I think possibly with the exception of emergency vehicles, but we just
Right.
can't use that at all.
right.
So, but we don't
That's up by
really,
the sheep farm.
yeah, discuss, you know, what might, I don't know.
Yeah. And also the lease the equestrian group has
They're vacating.
dissolved the lease, right?
Yeah, they're vacating, I think, maybe as of tomorrow.
Oh, the horses,
Friday.
they are gonna leave.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's a big loss, but they actually determined that they didn't want to do it.
That's my
So-
understanding.
Oh, okay.
So they made the decision that to.
Yeah, there were a lot of restrictions and the environment was gonna change. It was
Yes.
heaven to be able to ride there.
I heard it's a beautiful building.
It is spectacular building. It's spectacular.
Spectacular.
Very, very special.
We'll be able to make some use of it down the road someday.
That's all TBD, which gets into the next note, is that an RFQ, a request for qualifications, was issued to solicit architectural and design firms to present to the town why they feel that they are qualified to help Darien do its master planning for the project. The feeling was rather go straight RFP, for this, it's just, we wanted to net down the number of proposals we would ultimately be reviewing. So there were 16 firms that sent in RFQs. So I can stack this big to work my way through in the next couple of weeks. And we'll be rating each of the firms over established criteria that, everybody on the committee will be working against to narrow the field down to probably, 6 firms or so. And then the next step would be to put an RFP to really get those firms, the ones we feel are the most qualified.
You gave them guidelines to.
Yes. Yeah, so what information we were looking for is, give a sample of, up to 5 representative projects that you feel are comparable. And qualifications of your, because, back when we looked at proposals to do either a master plan or pear tree back, it's a very similar process, but it's really to make sure that we're gonna be focusing on, selecting from sort of the best of the best in terms of firms to help us guide us through this, what will probably be a multi-year project to really think about, the opportunities, the visioning for the property and the different opportunities and stuff, so. But we got a lot of great, I've done one very fast, just flip through each one, now I've gotta go back and start doing the detail and the reading, but, very qualified firms, very, very qualified firms to help us through. So that's what's going on with Great Island. Coastal Commission met a few weeks ago. They're still working on the update to the mooring policy, whatever it's with, I think it's with town council now for review, so nothing new on that. They had asked to get a presentation on our Pear Tree Point project approval because the funds have been secured to apply to CTD to get permits to dredge Darien Harbor, and they wanted to really understand about the permitting process with CTD. Our approval includes approval for some dredging. So Dan Biggs joined us by Zoom, Mike Scrow came, and we made a presentation.
I thought that was a huge problem because we couldn't dump it anywhere. It was too expensive.
It's gonna make it cost a lot more money.
And so they're gonna bring it down to New Jersey or Pennsylvania?
What, ours or the town?
I don't know, I thought the problem was we couldn't dump it in the Sound.
That's true, so for either what, when we proceed, when and if we proceed with Pear Tree, or if the harbor's dredged, yes, then everything has. Well, we don't know, the sampling for the part of it that was done for our project indicated that the soil, has to be
Contaminated.
dewatered and trucked off and can't go in the Sound. What we'll find in the middle of the harbor, we don't know.
Okay.
That will be part of the approval process.
Interesting.
So, Dan and Mike did a nice job of providing them with an overview of our projects. They kind of, marry up, so it's like,
Sure.
we go so far and then they pick up and
Sure.
they have to go around.
That's right, Bonnie. That funding will come before the RTM in the next meeting
Right.
in March.
So hopefully they'll approve it because it is important. We're a voting community and
And how much is the funding?
it's just like $25,000. It's just to hire a firm to do the application for us
Yeah,
because,
that's-
these applications can take
Take forever.
18 months to work their way through.
Right.
To get it approved, and then it's going to be a substantial amount of money to dredge the harbor if you decide
Yes.
to go ahead, but there are definitely some, it's filling in, and there's some real shallow spots. So, shallow spots. And what we're having these weird, we have these weird high tides we've been having. Well, 6 hours later, we have really weird low tides. And you get, so, anytime we have these super high tides, the other end of it, you're having a super low tide.
This is a tough thing, but is there any effort being made to speak with the neighbors about chemicals and things that they're using on their lawns? Because that's the stuff that's going into the harbor that's making it continue.
Well, the commission, the coastal commission asked Dan about the source, and he couldn't and wouldn't say for certain that that's where it was coming
Okay,
from.
fair
He said it could be coming from way upstream.
That's good.
The Good Wives River goes all the way, but whatever, he said it could be going way, way upstream. So they don't really know, unfortunately. But that was raised.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about. So that was that.
So my guess is the neighbors, if they knew, would be more careful.
You would hope.
Yeah, so maybe they don't know. Right, you'd hope.
You'd hope. Yeah. Weed Beach update, Weed Beach Meadow project, as Jim mentioned. We got all our approvals from planning and zoning, we got our official letter of the approval, Jim's got a copy, I've got a copy. There was some talk that there might be an appeal, that did not happen. The next steps, as Jim mentioned, is we're finishing up the bid package, that will go out, so that by early April, we will have an idea of, what it's going to cost, and if it's, hopefully in the neighborhood that we thought. We are scheduled to present the project to the selectmen on April 8th. I would really appreciate it if all of you possible could attend that to support the project. We've been working on this for a very, very long time to really reclaim that property and integrate it into the park and make it useful. So Dan Biggs will be coming, he'll be doing, because it's very a lot of it is very technical in terms of the, the remediation of the invasives and drainage issues and,
Time.
I'm not sure I know. I think the selectmen usually meet, I want to say they usually meet at 7? 7 usually, though? Yeah, I think that's their typical time. But I can't say whether it would be first or in the middle or whatever. I believe that's a Monday. So the next step would be, and the idea is that at that point, we would have the bids as well, and so they'd be looking at, the project, the merits of the project, and what it would cost, and ideally, voting to proceed, and then it would have to go to the Board of Selectmen, and then the RTM. I think thought was it might be bundled in the bonding amount for the year, but I'm not sure about that, but those are the next steps. We still are experiencing some neighbor objections. I do expect that there will be neighbors who will be at that meeting and speak against the project. And hopefully we'll also have people where they're speaking in support of the project. I think it will serve the community nicely. So that's been going on. The search for a new Parks and Rec director is ongoing. We conducted, was here this morning, we conducted some interviews for finalists, and we do have more tomorrow. And from there, that group will be netted down a bit, and then finalists will be interviewed by the Board of Selectmen, who have the final decision-making authority. So that is moving along.
Who's doing the preliminary interview?
It was a group interview. It was myself, Kate, Susan, what's Susan's?
Barksdale.
Susan, who's our HR director, Ed Gentile, and Jen Chernovsky, who's our finance director. So it's the 5 of us.
Jim, did any of you or your team interview?
What's up, sorry, what's
Did
that?
anyone you and your team interview the potential park director? Are they trying to involved in the process?
No.
Why? Sorry,
Because
I'm
it's-
used to corporate sort of
Because
interviewing
it's
where you,
for the director.
it doesn't matter. You're just gonna be
No.
working with
Typ-
them.
we
The answer's no.
we typically don't, no.
Yeah, but, yeah, sorry.
But Kathy, you raise a good point. The interviews now are are done by people who were working for them as well.
Yeah, working for them, so it's gotten, in
It's a
corporate America, it's
difference, yeah.
changed dramatically. And the people who are gonna be working with senior level people are part of the interview process.
Well, that's not happening.
And decision making.
And part of the decision making.
Okay, well, that's not
And it's quite a great, good idea.
I agree, I think it's a good idea to get a feel, at least
Yeah,
a
it's-
feel, I'm
it's-
not saying they
it's-
have to make the final decision,
I know,
but it's
it's
nice.
not-
The process is set and the train has left the station. The train has left the station, so. It was a panel interview, all the questions, we all submitted questions that we wanted to have, in advance. So there's a set group of questions and kind of each took turn posing the different questions, so that every candidate is asked the same questions. They were all given homework assignments that were presented back to us for a reading after the interviews, to come up with a program idea and present it and justify it. So it's ongoing, so I would expect within the next week, we'll determine which candidates will go forward and interview with the Board of Selectmen. That's moving along. And, let's see, what did you want to say? Cara. We did that. Jim, any budget update, through?
Well, no, I mean, the operating budget, Mary Louise touched on the one cut that was out of the operating budget. The, pretty much every one of the capital items went through except for, the basketball cracks in the Baker fence were gonna be part of ARPA funding. That wouldn't be coming right out of our budget. The stand-on blower was restored for our maintenance crew. They need a little bit more information on the Weed Beach tennis wall project, and yeah, we're waiting on the bid. We'll be waiting on the bids for the Weed Beach Meadow Trail. Other than that, everything pretty much went through at least through the Board of Selectmen.
So for the tennis project, are you providing them information to them?
I did provide them some more information. I have not been told if they need further information, but I did provide additional information than what was originally given.
So next, the Board of Finance will be doing their homework during the month of March, is usually when they go through their budget discussions, and then ultimately goes to the RTM. So we still have a long way to go, but that's where we are.
Holohan backstop was removed by the town administrator. Excuse me,
That was removed by the town administrator, yes.
and the.
The blower was, but it
The
was,
beautification budget was reduced from the 45 asked to what it was this year, which was 18.
Then went up to
It
24.
went up to 25.
Well, there's two.
There's two different
There's
ones.
beautification and then there's invasive.
Invasive.
There's
Oh,
two
okay.
different
Okay.
pockets.
So 27 was removed from the beautification,
Okay.
and the other was what you said.
Right. Right. We have one pocket to remove things, and then we have another pocket to make things pretty again. Two pockets. Let's see, Mary Louise, you mentioned the March 9th event at the Gardner Center. That covers what would be a content. I think that is it.
Okay.
Been very engaged with our new first selectman. He's been terrific. We've been in touch and seem to talk quite regularly, which has been really good. I think he's seen very quickly how much really goes on with Parks and Rec. Great Island, a lot going on with our open space, which is nice. It's getting a lot of attention, which is wonderful. I think that's it. That's all I've got.
Thanks for all your hard work, Lori,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
and your leadership.
Okay, if we can take a motion to adjourn. No, we're not. I was gonna say we're early tonight. Kathy, second?
Second.
You're the first, who's the second? Jim? Okay, all in favor? Okay, we're done. Thank you, TV 79.